Hey, do you have one scene that you've written where like after you've written the scene, you're like, not even like right after, but even like months after, or maybe a year after, where you read it back and you're like, damn, that was good stuff.
Oh yeah, I have some. Yes, I also have some that I don't like, but I have some scenes that I love for sure.
What's like your top three?
I have a play called Last Gas, um, and there's a scene in which a guy is tending a convenience store, an overweight guy,
Mm-hmm.
and a woman comes in who used to live in the town where the store is. She hasn't been back for a while, and she doesn't recognize the guy behind the counter. She went to high school with him, but she doesn't recognize him because he's overweight. And he doesn't help her figure out who he is, because it's clear she doesn't recognize him. So he kind of wants to see what's going to happen. And when she finally does recognize him, she tells him he looks great, and he's like, "No, I don't." And she's like trying so hard. "No, you look really great. You look great." And he's like, "No, I don't. So stop it. I don't. I'm fat, and you don't even recognize me." And I really love that scene because they reunite. It's not a reunion because neither of them really is expecting to reunite, but it's just such an awkward re-meeting, and they say some really not nice things to each other. Um, and I'm just really proud of that scene. That's the one scene that comes to mind that I'm really proud of.
Was
Um,
that
what'd you say?
was that inspired by some real life events?
I think it's just inspired by getting older because as you get older, like some people change a lot as they get older. Some men lose their hair. Some people get fat. Some people are, ravaged by disease and don't look like what they used to look like. And that's one of the scary things about getting older. And it happens. Like when you go back to see your friends, sometimes you don't recognize people because they look so different. And sometimes like really skinny high school boys are suddenly these massive men. Do you know what I mean? Like big, strong dudes. You would never recognize them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I think
totally.
that's part of it. Um, I think that's what it came from. Is just that reaching that age where you realize that sometimes people don't recognize each other.
Yeah,
I'm kind of lucky because my hair isn't gray and I still look pretty similar to what I looked like, and a lot of my friends do, but some of us don't.
yeah.
My
And
husband is,
that's just how it is.
he was a skinny guy in high school, and now he's a big guy, and so people don't recognize him at all because he looks nothing like what he looked like in high school in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
um, I'm trying to think of other scenes that I just love. There's a scene in a play I wrote called Cul-de-sac that's just about to get published, and um, there's a sequence that I wrote about how people smile when they don't mean it, and how there's a lot of smiling when you don't mean it in this country, and it's always kind of
Wow.
confused me as an individual. And I really am proud of the scene that I wrote about it because this husband and wife talk about how this woman was smiling and she didn't mean it, and I just think it's a pretty interesting idea because you see it all the time. People are saying something
Yeah.
and they're smiling, and you're like, "You're mad at me," and I can't tell because you're smiling, but I feel like you're mad at me, but you're smiling so that you're not mad at me, or you're trying not to be mad at me, and it's sometimes I just wish we wouldn't try to smile to cover our feelings and just try to be more honest.
Yeah, dude, can you talk me through how you worked that idea into the scene? Because that's a really fascinating idea, and I'm curious about what was how you went about portraying that.
Well, it's a man and a woman who are having a conversation. The woman is telling her husband about the experience she just had with her neighbor, and her neighbor kept smiling so hard at her. And she said, "I feel like I see that all the time, people smiling when I don't mean it. And I feel like I do it." And her husband's like, "Well, honey, why are you worried about that?" And she's like, "Because it's not right. It's not right to mislead people in that way." And he's like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you, honey. Just smile when you mean it and don't think no." And it leads to this whole thing about how unhappy she is and how unhappy a lot of women are. And so they feel forced to smile to prove that they're okay because they're required to be okay because they have so many responsibilities as women. That's not exactly what the scene is about, but that's kind of what I was thinking about. And I'm just interested in that.
That's
We're
really
so hard
that's
on
really
women
cool.
for being like smiley and fake, and it's kind of been required of them in a lot of ways. And I feel like it's not all their fault. It's the world's fault. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I just
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
I'm examining what that does to people, if that makes any sense.
How do you as a man go about writing female characters? Because I struggle with that in my writing, and I was just interested in how you go about that.
Well, you have to be able to write people who are not you, because the imagination should be, if I am only allowed to write what I am, then I can only write about being a gay 50-year-old man who lives, and that's what I am. But I imagine myself in a lot of other different ways, and I think you have to allow people to imagine, other characters, other ages, other types. I think the trick is, though, is to just like, I know that in the novel writing world, they have sensitivity readers who read novels to make sure that a novelist is like getting things right if they're writing about a person who's in a wheelchair, or getting things right if they're writing about a person who is gender nonconforming, or just to make sure that you're getting it right so that it feels right enough that the story won't get derailed by your insensitivity or your ignorance. And I feel like I do the same thing with my friends. Like, I'm writing a love story about two women, and I'm not a woman, but I like writing love stories. And so I'll have my friends who are women read the love story that I'm writing, and they will just fill me in on places that it feels like a man wrote it, or it feels like John wrote it, or it feels like a gay man's perspective, or it feels like a little too trying too hard to be feminine, stuff like that. Just it'll check me on all my, because I'm not authentic. It's not going to be authentic. It's going to be imagined. So they'll just be like the
I like
authenticity
that.
police. And one of the things I've noticed about my own plays, Almost Maine and Last Gas in particular, is that I like them a lot better when people who come from rural places and not a lot of money play those parts, because they understand what it is to not have much and what it is to be from a rural place a lot better than people who are maybe urban and well to do.
What can you speak on about intention when you're writing? Because I feel like when you're talking about people who have really experienced, I feel like when they've experienced what your intent is to express, I feel like they have a more full understanding of the character. So I was just wondering what you think about intent when writing, and sometimes when your intent can get misconstrued, and how that affects the second drafts or third drafts.
Well, I think I can answer that directly this way. Almost Main, whenever, when you have a play and it gets published, when your play is up for republication, or they call it just reprint, the publisher comes to you and says, your play's up for reprint. Would you like to make any changes? And they'll allow you to update or make some changes. And that they will incorporate the changes into the new manuscript, and the manuscript becomes published in a new version. And it's usually called, like, Almost Main is now on its third revised edition. The next time it gets printed, it'll be on its fourth revised edition. Well, on the third revised edition, the editor at Dramatists Play Service, her name is Haley Stillwell. She's an amazing person and a brilliant person. She mentioned, and this is in 2018, I believe, she said, I want to just bring to your attention, and my agent at the time also did. My agent was Beth Blickers at the time, and she's had really great insight into this problem. They both noticed that there were some instances in Almost Maine where men kissed women, and then the women, in one of the scenes, a woman actually says, "Please don't do that anymore," and then the man kisses her again. And they said, just in the interest of the spirit of your play, I think you might want to revisit this, because this could become problematic as people become more attuned to the fact that what is sexual. We were at a point where the Me Too movement hadn't quite started, but we were just about there, and we were starting to realize, like, men have to be responsible for their behavior and have to, like, pay attention to what is happening to the woman that they're courting, or that they like, or that they love, or whatever it is, and how to behave not aggressively. Do you know what I mean? And how to not just consent, making sure the relationship is growing mutually. And I just had a few funny little sections. There was also a section where I gendered affection, and I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do that in the play, because affection is human. It's not male or female. It's just human. And they just helped me see that there were a couple places where I might want to revisit and maybe do some rewrites. And my first response was, that wasn't my intention. So it should be fine. And Haley, the editor at Drama's Play Service, said, and then Beth also, my agent at the time, said, it doesn't really matter what your intention is. What's in the text is that this man kisses this woman. She asks him not to do that again, and then he does it again. And that's just a problem. And your play is about goodness, kindness, and sweetness. And I don't think you want your play to be about a man behaving badly.
That's a really progressive
And that's really helpful.
that's a really
Would you
progressive
say?
like mind's thought process. Do you mind if I ask what year was that?
I think it was 18. Let me look because I can look on the.
I think that you should.
Sorry. Yeah, it was 2017 when we made the
That's really
changes.
cool. I think those, you got some smart people working around you, man.
Well, I'm just realizing that like when they said that, and that's like that's the big thing to say to men in general. What you intended isn't what you did, and they said what you intended isn't in your script, and we just want you to make sure that what you intend is in your script because people don't know you, they don't know what you're like. They're gonna, and some people have seen the old versions of the script, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so problematic. And I'm now able to say, well, fortunately, we have the third revised edition. We were ahead of the, we were on the, we knew that the problem was existed, and we addressed it head on and changed the script. And now this play, which is a collection of love stories about people trying to be good to each other, will remain as such. It won't suddenly become, oh, that play where the guys kiss the girls, even though the girls ask them, the girls ask the guys not to. You know,
That's really
not
cool.
what we wanted. So we just did some rejiggering throughout the script, very small changes, but very important changes, and just making sure that the text supported what the stories I wanted to tell.
Absolutely.
You know.
Hey, I have a question. If you had to give up playwriting or acting, which would you give up?
Oh, I don't know if I could give up either. That's not fair. Why would you
I
ask
don't
that
know.
question?
It kind of interesting. It's not fair. I didn't say it was.
Why would you ask that? That's a terrible question. That puts me, that
Oh,
makes
I'm
me nervous and
sorry.
sad.
Okay, next question.
No, it's okay. Because right now, guess what? I've had to give up. I've had to give up acting right now. You know, because of the
Yes.
COVID-19 situation, and I'm doing okay. I think if you made me give up playwriting, I'd be much sadder. So I would say, by a hair,
Okay.
acting.
I'm not saying you
I would give
have
up
to,
acting.
but you don't
I don't
have to.
want
You
to,
can do
but
whatever you want. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
acting. It would be. And you said which
Yes.
which would you give up?
Okay.
Yeah, acting.
Interesting. I think that's yeah, very cool. Also, do you like acting on stage or behind the camera more?
Oh,
Like
I
it
just
all.
like it
And then
all.
what's the big
Yeah,
what's the
there's no
biggest
better.
difference in like your thought process? Because I know in acting there's a lot of like talk about the moment before. So I was wondering like what's the biggest difference in your thought process when acting behind a camera or on stage?
Oh, well, on stage they see your body, so your body does the play. And when you're working behind the camera, you just need to know what the frame is and what part of your body they see, and that's how you do it.
Very
Does
straightforward.
that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does. And then
Yeah.
which art form, playwriting versus acting, which of those art forms do you think has been more impactful on you as a person?
I would say acting because being inside plays is when you really learn the plays and you learn about the ideas in the plays. So I would say being in. I think you know, like they say that if you want to learn
Mm-hmm.
about something, teach it. I feel like if you want to understand a play, being in it is the way to really understand, or just to live inside it. You just understand a play in a different way than an audience is going to. So I would say acting inside
Nice.
plays definitely.
And then, is there a special place that you go to get inspiration or people to that you hang around just to get your like, just to get into like a flow state? Is there like a routine you go through before you write?
I go running. I like to go for runs, sometimes long ones, and that helps. And I also go to Maine. Um, I go to my hometown in Maine. I go to uh, there's a camp on a lake in Maine that some family members have that we visit. And Maine, it was definitely Maine.
Nice. And then, what's like your optimal writing setup? Do you have any like snacks that you stick by you? Do you have like a perfect temperature? Do you have like a fan? Do you have like music that you put on? What's like your optimal setup?
I don't think there's any optimal because I don't like doing it. So I don't have one. I don't think of writing as my
Oh,
optimal
for sure.
state of being. Um, Honestly, having the time and not having to worry about a million other things
So
is probably the optimal state, and that's rare. So that's why this whole
so a
shutdown has
lack of
been kind of
distraction.
nice.
Cool. And
I would
then
say, yeah.
I know you don't like writing, but I wanted to ask another writing question. So what is,
Okay.
in your experience, the anti-writer's block? Or is there no such thing and you just have to find it for your own self? But it's
I don't think there's any such thing as writer's block because you're always blocked. You're always struggling. You're always trying to overcome the obstacle of coming up with the idea, expressing the idea. So I don't really entertain the idea of writer's block because I feel like it's usually it's the norm. So you just have to consider it the norm.
yeah,
Does
totally.
that make sense?
Okay. Now,
Because if I think of it as writer's block, then I think of it as hard, and then I think it's hard all the time because it's almost always there. You know, it's rare. The day is rare when it just comes
mhm,
flying out of you. It's usually
mhm.
difficult. So I just try not to think of it as as difficult. And I also just try to remind myself that I
Oh
love
yeah.
having written, even though I don't like writing. I love having
That's
written.
really cool. I think that that is something that I can take away from that is just like the feeling of accomplishment. It's like that this you're like while you're doing it, you're like, this is why I'm doing this. I think that's really cool.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
hey, I know that you are a big history buff, and in our times, what's
How do
that?
you know this? How do you know
Because
this?
the internet.
Okay.
So I what?
I'm a history major. I don't know if I would say I was a history buff because I'm not as good on dates and
Oh yeah,
I
wrong
still
word,
have to
wrong
look
word.
everything. But
History fan.
I do love,
So
yes, for sure, for
in our
sure.
times,
But I'm really bad with wars. Like I don't know anything about wars because I don't like war very much, so I have a hard time learning about
for
war.
sure, yeah, war is tough. It's like
Which is,
it's war is literally like the opposite of love, or it's like the same thing. I don't know. Who knows? Banter. Um, so history obviously seems to have repeat itself as we're seeing. The Donald seems to emulate a little bit of the traits of a certain a certain world leader that I will remain nameless, particularly in the 1940s and 30s. But so if you were in, this is my question: if you were in charge of the American education system, how would you change the way that history is taught in high school?
wow. You know what? I think that I would put a premium on learning about where you grow
Mm,
up. Like I mean, really learning about where you grow up. Because learning about where you grow up will lead to larger issues. But I feel like too many New Yorkers know so little
mm,
about their own city. And even where I grew up in Maine, I know so little about like the war that made the boundary of Aroostook County in Canada. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like local history is where it's at, and that's what I would change. I also think that civics, everybody needs to learn about civics and government because we just don't know how our government functions and we don't know enough about civics. And I think I would teach local government, how local government works, how county government works, how the school board works. That's what I would teach. I would focus on the
that's
local because the local is where things actually change
that's
and where
solid.
things
I
get
like
done.
that. And like what was your inspiration for studying history personally?
Oh my gosh, honestly, Cameron, it's what I had the most courses in when it was
Oh
time to
really?
declare a major.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Don't Are
No
you
man, why would
disappointed
I
in
be
me?
disappointed in that? That's a solid reason.
You know what I wanted to be? I wanted to be a math major, but I didn't think I was good enough at it, and I wish I hadn't
Really?
thought that. Yep. Because I'm not great
Math
at it, but I love
numbers,
it.
man. If you can like numbers, you got a lot ahead of you. I feel like if people like I feel like there's like if you like math, you're a nerd, you know. It's like screw that. You know,
Oh no.
like numbers are it's the reason our ability as humans to figure out these patterns, man. That's what makes us special.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a
Thank you,
well put.
thank you.
That's well put.
Uh, and then I'm gonna let you out of here, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I had just a couple final questions. So who are just some actors or writers that you just really look up to? That really just inspire you and get like whenever you're down on yourself or like wow I can't make it like this industry it's too tough. Who are some individuals that really just are like I gotta keep going, you know?
That's a good question. Honestly, my friends who are actors are my favorite actors, and nobody else really knows who they are. I think they're the ones who I look to for help there. Um, I don't I don't really have a favorite playwright. I don't really have a favorite actor because my favorite playwrights have written plays that I don't like very much, and my favorite actors have performed in things have given performances that I don't love. And so I think that, I don't know who said this, but some writer said this, that genius isn't something you own, it's something that visits you. I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert actually. I think I watched a TED talk about this, but genius isn't something that you are, it's something that visits you. And it doesn't live in you exclusively. It visits you and then it leaves and it visits other people. And I just kind of like to think about that. Um, I would say, you know, I really like the playwright Lynn Nottage because I think she's a chameleon as far as playwrights go. She writes so many different kinds of plays. One of my favorite plays is Intimate Apparel. It's just so sweet and beautiful and sad. And then she wrote, and it's about a woman who makes undergarments in the I think the early 1900s. She makes undergarments for wealthy people basically, and um, she also wrote the play Sweat. She also
Oh,
wrote the play Ruined. So she writes lots of
I
different
read
kinds of
Sweat. Sweat
plays.
was it's freaking sweet.
It's a really
Yeah.
interesting play, isn't it? um, but and I would say as far as actors, I really look. I tend to think about her. I'm not a chameleon in the way she is as a writer, and I'm not trying to be. I also look at like Tony Kushner's play Angels in America. I look to Ibsen. I'm really into Lillian Hellman right now. Uh, that's what I can come up with as far as playwrights go. Oh, Tracy Letts' play, August Osage County, thrilled me in a way that no play has ever really
Totally.
thrilled me. I just had so much fun watching that family
Yeah,
deal with
yeah.
itself. um, and then, like, I love Shakespeare's Winter's Tale and
Yeah.
Measure for Measure, and I like his romance. They're called romances. They're the plays that are more like real life today. They're called problem plays, but they're about complicated people and complicated things. And when they end, you're not sure whether to be happy or sad.
That's so
Um,
interesting. I love plays that are up for interpretation.
and just you're left feeling mixed emotions because that's what most of living is just
Yeah,
mixed
yeah.
emotions. Um, and then as far as actors, I've always loved the actress
Oh yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer. I just think she's one of my favorite movie stars. Um, I really love. I really loved Philip Seymour
Hmm?
Hoffman. I'm sad he's
Yeah.
gone. I'm thinking of just actors who inspire me. Matt Damon, I've always loved.
He's a cutie.
um, and those are like
Yeah.
movie stars, you know what I mean? And then like I just love going to the movies and seeing some amazing performance of someone I just don't even know.
Me too, man. I
You
love that
know,
when there's an actor you've never heard of and you're just blown away.
blown away. Yeah, and that's partly because they're new to you, and that's what you can't recreate when you have like actors who
Yeah,
stars who appear in several movies. After
you
a
don't have any
while,
expectation.
yeah, yeah, and it's really hard for them to surprise
Yeah.
you. And when
Mm-hmm.
they do, it's thrilling. But I would say my real answer though is I turn to my friends who are writers and
I think
actors. They inspire me.
I think that's a very real answer, and I think that's really like cool because I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to have some like I feel like we get a little bit caught up in idolization, and I think that when you come down to it, brass tacks, all you really got is the people you know, and I think that's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and the people you work with. Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of people listening, they really just want to know like how do you like what drives you? Like how do you keep going when like in I'm sure there's been points in your career where you're like, wow, like I don't want to say use the term rock bottom, but you know like near that point where it's just like, damn, this is such a hard industry. So I wanted to ask like, how did you know you were pushing the right buttons, or it was like, or not even like how like just what really what's your fuel, man? Because I feel like a lot of people run out of gas sometimes, and you're someone that really has managed to overcome that obstacle.
I think it's just about finding stories that you care about telling and being honest with yourself about what you want to do a job for. Do you want to do it because you know have you know for I had been doing a lot of TV and movies for a while and I hadn't done a play in a long time and then you know a few years back I got asked to do a play and at first I was like, oh, I don't want to go away and do a play because it was going to be in San Diego. And then I realized, you know, I haven't done a play in a long time. I need to go do a play and just see what it's like. And I'm really glad I did because I was dealing with a little bit of stage fright. My voice wasn't as strong as it needed to be, and I just had to kind of get myself back in shape for doing a play because doing a play is an athletic event. I always just go by the story, honestly. Like I like to tell good stories more than I like to play good, cool characters. Like some people love to act and love to make good characters, and that's interesting. But I only like to do that if the
Yeah,
story's really
totally.
good, you know. So I always kind of look at the story, and if the story is really interesting, then I go for it. And, you know, I don't get so many things that I want to do, so I don't know. I just feel like, honestly, I feel like the people who don't hire me, I'm like, screw you, you made a mistake, dude. That's what I
I
usually
love
think.
that. I love that.
You know, and I don't know why I think that because it's not like I have this incredible amount of confidence or anything, but I really don't have much patience for people who won't let me do the job that I should do.
Exact.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
totally.
So
I see. I see. I'm picking up what you're putting
going.
down, man.
And also, when I've auditioned and I haven't done a good job, I'm like, well, I guess I didn't really deserve that one because it didn't go that well, and that makes me mad because I know I could have done it, but I didn't prove to them I could, so I guess I don't get to do it. You
Yes,
know.
but
And also, just you always have to remember all the things that are not in
mhm.
your control. You know,
but
you
so
got to
how
remember
about in
that.
like the early stages of your career? Like, do you feel like it was just you got lucky, or it was like a gradual grind to that led you to where you?
Well, it was definitely just a gradual grind. I was lucky because I got when I started out, I got into commercials and television really fast, and that made me money. So that made my life easier and that I didn't have to take all these terrible, terrible jobs, if that makes sense. You know, like not terrible jobs, but just hard
Oh,
jobs to make money to take away from my
I don't
pursuit of what I wanted to do. So that was
I don't know if this
where
is
I
what you
did
mean,
get
but
lucky.
like
And then playing got really popular, so I had a stream of income, so I could really focus on what I wanted to do, and I didn't have to take every acting job that came along. You know, I could pick things that I
it could
wanted
be
to do.
true.
Well, I don't think picking jobs you when you have to work, that's
That's
being
true.
true too.
That's
When you
true.
have to make a living, you don't have to worry about those things. You don't have to answer questions of like what do I want to do? What am I interested in doing? Because you have to work. So there's ease in
Yeah,
that
totally.
too, you know? I think it's great to be led by the need to make a living, you know? I think that leads you to really beautiful places actually.
Create to survive,
So
right? I love
yeah,
that, man. I love that. And I have two final questions that I'd like to ask you because we're hitting an hour and a half right now, and
we're good.
I really appreciate you doing this with me, man. And so I wanted to ask, what is your favorite food?
I think egg noodles and soup. My mom used to make pasta, and these egg
Ooh,
noodles that she made were so delicious. And the reason I say this is because we recently made some um, Japanese egg noodles for dinner, and they tasted a lot like the egg noodles my mom used to make. So I think that may be one of my favorite foods. And I also love potato gnocchi. That's probably
Dude,
my
no way.
favorite
My
food.
favorite food's potato gnocchi. I I
Oh my gosh,
like
it's
it.
my favorite food in the world. And we said gnocchi in my family because we said everything
No,
wrong because we're like the kind of Italians who said
gnocchi is
everything
right.
perfectly wrong.
We're good, bro.
Yeah, okay.
We're in the right here.
That's my favorite. That's
Dude,
probably my
I like it
favorite
with the
food.
pesto sauce. What kind of sauce do you like?
No, 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 no
No,
pesto.
no.
That's my
I
favorite.
have a restaurant in San Francisco I go to. They do it right. Let me tell you. Oh yeah, it's like
Really? Okay. I like a
oh
nice light red
for sure.
sauce.
Nice bolognese, or you go straight marinara.
Marinara,
I
just
like
yep. And it has to be a sweet
yes, yes. Oh, oh my God.
marinara.
Whenever I
Oh, I like that. That's
dude,
a good
no,
question.
like
I like
seriously,
that.
I feel like
What's your favorite? Gnocchi's your favorite?
my
What's your
favorite
favorite
dessert.
dessert?
You know, that's a toughie, but I gotta go with. I haven't really thought about my favorite dessert, but if I had to pick, I don't know. My knee jerk answer is like chocolate cream pie. I gotta say.
Oh, are you kidding me? I would
No
say chocolate
way.
pudding pie. So we could have a feast together of gnocchi and chocolate pudding pie, and we'd be
I
very
think
happy
that's the
people.
coolest thought. That's the coolest, right? Wow. Did we just become best friends?
Wait, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to college, and are you gonna be an actor? Is that what you want to do, or do you want to get involved in the theater? Do you want to be a philosopher? Do you
Yeah,
want to
man.
be a
I'm gonna be a
journalist? What do you want to do?
filmmaker. Mm-hmm.
Really?
I
All
want to
right.
get into like
Well,
the directing side at Cal Poly with the theater program. I want to direct plays
that's
and
terrific.
like try to and because
That's
I have
awesome.
kind of this background in acting and I have kind of this zany sense of humor, this so I feel like I could
Hmm.
work in my personality in my acting and try to convey that to the actors that I write that I yeah that I direct.
Direct. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the word.
What are some of
What's
your
that?
favorite movies?
Okay,
What are some of your
so
favorite movies?
favorite movies, man. I have a I have a pretty wide like variety of like
Okay.
of favorites, but I feel like if I had to pick one that was like whoa, like um
Yeah.
I don't know, there's like I feel like when you ask the question, what's your favorite movie? Like that's such a big question, but uh on my wall,
I
I'm
know.
a big Tarantino fan. I really respect how
Okay.
true he is to his own craft, and I think that
Yep.
I have the, like nine I have all his movie posters on my wall, and I'm looking at them, and
Really?
I gotta say, the second Kill Bill, the second part is pretty stellar. Um, that and like
Okay.
I'm a big Star Wars guy. So probably like
Yep.
the fifth Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back. Dude, I don't know. This is like a this is tough. This is tough. Like
Horrible question. I know. I know. But you asked me who my
this is
favorite
true.
playwright is and who my
This is
favorite
true. It's only
actors are.
fair. Fair is fair. Fair is fair.
Yeah,
Fair is fair.
you
Oh, jeez. It's tough when you're on the spot, man. You're flipping the script on me.
I'm sorry. I didn't
I'm
do that.
kidding.
I
No,
didn't mean
you're
to do that.
perfect. You're perfect. I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson, man. The Grand Budapest Hotel. That movie, I was like,
Okay.
oh my god. And like just recently, and
Okay.
have you seen oh okay. You know what? I have a definitive answer what my favorite movie is. All right, you ready for this?
What?
It's called I'm Still Here.
What?
It
I'm
is
still
it
here.
is the it's a
What is that?
mockumentary made by Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck, and it
Oh.
is
Okay.
like it's one of those. It's hands down my favorite movie. Like I just had to think about it for a
Okay.
while, but like I that's my answer. Like I know that to be true because it's just I don't even. There's not really a way that I can explain it to like other people might watch that movie and be like, "Wow, that was the dumbest movie I've ever seen." But it's like I watched it and I've watched it twice, and I'm just like it leaves me feeling so just like God, dude. God, I can't even
Hmm.
the best way to explain it. Like I'm probably gonna write like a video essay. You know, you ever watch video essays on YouTube about like movies and stuff?
What are they? Did they
Yeah,
show clips of the
exactly.
movie
You
and
got it.
talk about them?
And it's just like it's like a person just giving their thoughts and their impression on the movie. And I just I wrote because I journal a lot, and I watched that movie and I just journaled for like an hour, and I was like, holy, like I was it just
Yeah.
it's a movie that just leaves you feeling just so I want to say moved, intrigued, just like I don't
Okay.
even vulnerable. Like it's just it's my favorite movie. Yeah, man.
That's
What's
cool.
yours?
Wow, jeez. You asked me about my favorite. Okay, my favorite movie. Um, I really like the movie The Manchurian
For sure.
Candidate.
I've never heard of it.
Oh,
Oh,
what? Oh, you
I'm
gotta
gonna
watch that
watch it.
movie,
I'm gonna
dude.
watch
From
it.
the 50s. Frank Sinatra's in it. You gotta
Woo!
watch that.
Oh yeah,
Amelie. It's a French film. I think that's one of my
nice.
favorite movies. And if you watch it, you'll see why because it's. I think it was an influence on Almost Maine, and I didn't
There's
even
some
realize
movies
it.
that you just like see and you're just like, damn, that's exactly how I feel. Yeah,
Yeah, I loved Amelie, and boy, it's a hard. I can't think of
it's
other
all good.
movies that I
That
really
no,
love.
like that's
I
perfect.
love a movie by Francis Coppola
Oh
called The
yeah,
Conversation. I really like that. That's what comes to mind. I can't think.
that's
That's what comes
perfect,
to
man.
mind
That's
right now.
perfect. Um, damn, dude. Yeah, some I feel like there's a lot of art that's out there that people just they haven't even found yet. But it's like once they do, they're like, it kind of it's like it speaks to them in all senses of the word, you know, like it just it literally it speaks to who they are.
Yeah, and people have
They
to
do.
look for that
And I feel
stuff,
like a lot of people
and
don't know where to look, but all you got to do is start. You just got to start looking.
yeah, yeah.
Whew.
Wait, what was you had another
Well, yeah,
couple questions
the
you said? I
last
forgot
two. Okay,
to.
here's the last two. All right, what's some
Okay, okay.
music that just soothes your soul?
There's a band
Oh,
called
I've
Little
heard of
Big
them.
Town. They're a country band, and so I listen to a lot of early Little
Nice.
Big Town. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Nancy Griffith, Sean Colvin. Um, there's a woman named Amy Speace who is a folk artist who I really love. Um, I like to run to like I know it sounds crazy, but my favorite running mixes are like Janet
Oh, dude,
Jackson,
of
Whitney
course. I
Houston,
know
Tony.
it's all about that upbeat R&B, man. It just fuels you. I get you.
Yeah, I love that.
I run to like Tupac, and like I don't know if you've heard the album Yeezus by Kanye West, but it's like that is
I
that's
haven't
the
heard that,
album that it just like, oh my god, like it's pure. It's pure art, man. Pure art. Check it out.
but you asked me music that what? What did you say?
Just
Music that
resonates.
what?
Just
That,
soothes your soul.
oh gosh, soothes my soul.
Like when you're in a dark place,
Right now.
what is like some tunes or like a playlist that you turn on that just like brings you back? Because my playlist, I make them by date, so it's like I, the time in my life where I'm listening to different types of songs, I put them,
Oh, okay, okay,
and so I
that's
have
good.
playlists where I'll put it on, and it just takes me back to a simpler time, you know.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, so my playlist, I've got like I used to mow lawns at a cemetery every summer, and so I have mix called Summer Lawn Mow 1984, Summer Lawn Mow 1985, Summer Lawn Mow 1986, and Summer Lawn
that's
1987.
that's so
Those Super
cool.
Bowl. You can just look like 1987 was the year that U2 broke really big. So with or without you, and still haven't found what I'm looking for. 1986, the summer of '86. Gosh, I can't remember right now what that would be. Um, but a lot of synthy pop, if that makes sense. 1980, and that would be like a little bit of Whitney Houston. 1985 would be Heart. The band Heart had some big
Totally.
hits. So definitely 80s pop is definitely soothes my soul for sure because that's my growing up
Totally, man.
years.
Totally. And then, all right, I'm gonna let you go after this question, man. But I just wanted to know what is that word love? What is that to you? What does that mean?
Oh my gosh, what a great question, Cameron. Well, um, Mozart said that love is the soul of genius. So I agree there. Um, I think love is innocence and listening and not deciding or judging. And and actually, Mozart didn't say that love is the soul of genius. It was a couple other people who said it. I just found this out because I love that quote so much. And one of my friends, who's a professor of theology, told me um, that somebody else said it. I can't find who it is. Oh wait. It's Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. It's attributed to him, but Gottfried von, I don't know how you say this, Jacquin. What would you say, Jacquin? Gottfried von Jacquin by way of Johann Caspar Lavater. Those were people who taught him, and I guess he stole this quote from them. But I would say love is the soul of genius. I really like that idea. Um, and then the other things I said, like listening and paying attention, and that's a great question.
It's a big question, but
You know,
if you can simplify it, I feel like that's the most potent.
yeah, I think I think there's this myth that artists are tortured and can only create when they're tortured, and I think that is partly true, but there needs to be love in
Totally.
there somewhere.
It's got to be a balance.
And so I find that when I get tortured, if I can find like a little pocket of love somewhere, then it really like explodes into something cool.
Word.
It's also generosity. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
And I think love is not thinking about yourself too much too.
It goes back to what you were saying about the self. It's about the other, right? It's
Yeah,
all about the other.
yeah.
But I feel like, and how about this? How about this for a food for thought? Do you feel like you have to learn to love yourself before you can learn to love another person truly?
I have a weird opinion of this. I don't think that learning to love yourself is important.
Do you mind explaining
I don't
why?
know why I think
Or do
that.
you don't know why?
No, I just don't think we should think about
Sure.
ourselves so much.
I think that's a good way to think about it.
That's what I think, and I think that I just don't understand this idea of loving yourself because I don't think that's something I'm ever really going to do because I get so irritated with myself all the time. So I just kind of try to take myself out of the equation as much as I can. That's what I try to do. I don't even know what
For
that makes
me, I
sense,
hear
but
what you're saying and it makes perfect sense. However, for me, I feel like it's all about that the yin and the yang, man. It's about the balance. It's like I feel like there's like you have to understand self before you can understand other or vice versa. You have to understand other before you can understand yourself. And it's just like whatever direction you choose to go about that just trying to find your own truth. I think that whatever works for you. And I just think that it's all about that duality like we were talking about.
yeah, but I also think, yeah, and when you're your age, I think you actually do have to think about yourself a lot because you're building yourself. So I might be really wrong about that because it depends on how old you are. I think when you're my age and if you're thinking about yourself all the time, I don't think you've like really progressed
Yeah,
much as a
no,
human.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I feel like when you're younger, it's all about the self, and as you get older, it's less about the self. And I mean, if you've done good work on yourself, I guess when you're younger, then maybe you'll be healthier when you're
Totally,
older.
man. Well,
I just look at my parents who don't think much about themselves and how happy and healthy they are, and I wish that
yeah,
I was like that.
yeah. Damn straight, man. Damn straight.
So
Well, one last thing before you get out of here. All right. Thank you again. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. Um, it
this has
really
been fun.
has, man. It really
Really fun.
has. I've been having a blast. Um, so I
Good.
noticed on the Googles that you had a picture with Lin Manuel, and I want yes,
I do.
and I don't know, but
When?
did
Oh, I think it was at the band's
so
visit. Yeah.
I feel like you don't meet somebody like that every day, and I just wanted to know if there was what you said to that man, or if it was just like hi,
Oh,
bye.
I remember introducing him to the woman who played my wife to make sure he recognized her because the woman who played my wife in the band's visit, her name is Kristen C, and she was wearing this wig, so people never recognized her because she has long hair. In the show, she had this short hair, and so I was introducing him, and so he said, "I know who she is," and that was pretty much our exchange. But I've met him a couple times before. I mean, I met him when Hamilton was down at the Public, and um, he's always been really nice to me because he saw me in Fiddler on the Roof in 2004, and always says that's what he says. Fiddler on the Roof, 2004. I know you, and I was like, yes, that's correct. And so that's usually how I
That's
meet him
sick.
when I meet him. Um, and he's in our world, so I've seen him a lot, and I've been around him a lot. It's he's just an awesome guy in our profession. You know what I mean? That the greater, like, more of the world knows than most of us, and that's what's kind of exciting is that he's popularized Broadway in a way that no one else ever has. It's really
Yeah, man.
exciting.
It's magical. I think he's like seriously a wizard because of how he incorporated hip hop music into a musical. Like I'm a big hip
Yep,
hop head, and I was like
yep.
my whole world was turned upside down
Isn't
when I
and he writes the best hooks in his pop. He writes great pop songs, great hooks, and he puts them into Broadway shows, and I just love that too. Um, and he's just he's like a sprightly, awesome, kind, smart
he's
guy.
just a dude like the rest of us.
He's pretty much more special than I think, but that doesn't mean that we're okay. We're not okay too.
Word, man, word. Well, shoot, man. Thank you so much again. Would you like to speak any final words before we get out of here? Anything you'd like to leave the people with? Anything maybe to set the tone on a
I guess I just would say to, like, young people, I would just say, I know that the world is a pretty weird place right now, um, but I do think that progress has been made and will continue to be made, and will move forward in some way. And I don't know. I have faith in this republic, and I hope that all I know is that my life is a lot better and easier now than it was 20 years ago, and I have faith that in 20 years it will be better and easier for people than it might be difficult for right now. And so I just hope people recognize that possibility and know that the only way it will happen is if you go out and vote for the people who appoint people like police commissioners and appoint people in local government. You have to go vote on the local level, and I just think that's what I would say
go
to
vote
people.
and learn about local history.
Yes.
Word, man. Well, thank you very much, John.
So nice to hang out, Cameron, and I had so much fun talking to your class. I think yours was one of the first classes I talked to, actually, so that
Were
was
we
pretty
better than
cool.
the rest of the classes?
Of course you were. Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. Take care.